He lost his school fees in the rain, and a poor moi seller gave him her last 5,000 naira. Years later, he became rich and built a legacy in her name. Because one act of kindness changed everything. Hello family, enjoy this relaxing moment with AfriTales 38. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section, and generously hit the like button because it means a lot to us. Please relax and enjoy as we dive in the story. Write in the comment section where you are watching from. A boy and the rain. The sky was grey and angry, its belly full of water. It was the kind of rain that came down like punishment, loud, fast, and unrelenting. But Emeka didn't notice. Not really. He stood by the side of the road, drenched to the bone, one shoe missing, clutching a worn-out school bag that had more patches than fabric. His eyes darted frantically over the muddy ground. It wasn't just money he had lost. It was hope. 5,000 naira, he whispered, as if saying it out loud would summon the vanished envelope. The last thing his father said that morning echoed in his mind like a warning bell. You must return with the school receipt today. Ifeoma is waiting. And you know how she gets. Of course, he knew. Emeka knew the cold fury in his stepmother's eyes better than he knew the lines on his own palm. He looked up at the sky. The rain felt heavier now. Each drop a punishment. His feet were beginning to sink into the soft red mud of Okoga Market Road. People bustled past him, umbrellas blooming like dark flowers. They paid him no mind. To them, he was just another boy in the rain. Then, a voice pierced the noise. You dey look for something. He turned. It was an elderly woman with a wide frame and tired eyes. Her head was covered in a faded scarf, and beside her sat a warm tray of steaming moi, the kind wrapped in broad leaves, neatly folded, still hot from the pot. The scent of beans, onions, and spices rose from her stand like comfort. She wasn't selling tomatoes. Not fruits. Just one thing, the best moi in the whole market, they always said. She saw the panic on Emeka's face and the waterlogged school sandals on his feet. You dey cry. He shook his head stubbornly, even though the tears had started to mix with the rain on his face. I lost my school fees. Her eyes softened. How much? 5,000. She looked down at her moi. The tray wasn't full, but it wasn't empty either. And it had to last her for the day. But she didn't hesitate. She reached under her chair and untied a worn fabric purse from her wrapper. Slowly, carefully, she counted 5 crumpled Naira notes. The last of her morning sales. This not for your school, she said, pushing it into his small, shivering hand. You must go back and collect that receipt. And promise me say you go finish school. He blinked at her. But, why? Her smile was tired, but warm. Because person helped me once too. And I never forget. Help they move like breeze, you know fit see but he go reach somewhere. Emeka didn't say anything. Couldn't. The word stuck in his throat. He only nodded. As he ran back through the rain with the money clutched in his hand like gold, he didn't know that his small, muddy footprints had just crossed into destiny. A house without warmth. Emeka arrived home just before sundown. His clothes were still damp, his legs sore from running, but his fingers held the school receipt like it was a ticket out of hell. The small, cement house stood at the edge of a dusty street in Ibopon, one of Ogbomosho's poorer neighborhoods. Paint peeled from the walls like old skin, and rust claimed the gate. Inside, it smelled of kerosene, wet laundry, and something burnt in the kitchen. He knocked, even though it was his house. Ifeoma opened the door with a frown already waiting for him. She was tall, sharp-featured, and always wore a headscarf like a crown. Her eyes scanned him like a hawk. You're late, she said. Emeka bowed his head and stretched out the paper. I got the receipt. She snatched it, barely glancing. You didn't run off to play, did you? You know if your father wasn't working late today, I'd have reported you already. I dropped the money, he said quietly. What? But, someone helped me. The woman. The slap came before the tears. You foolish boy. So you expect me to believe that a stranger gave you money out of nowhere? Do you think life is Nollywood? He didn't cry. He was used to this. Instead, he looked past her, into the kitchen. His father's plate was still on the table. Cold. Untouched. Mr. Aneo, Emeka's father, worked long hours at the mechanic yard. He came home late, ate quickly, and rarely spoke. Grief had stolen his laughter the day Emeka's mother died in childbirth, and Ifeoma had filled the silence with orders and resentments. Emeka often wondered if his father still remembered how to smile. Go and fetch water for my bath, Ifeoma snapped. And don't even dream of eating yet. He turned away. His stomach ached with hunger, but it was his heart that felt the emptiest. Later that night, curled up on a stain mat under the window, Emeka pulled out his notebook from under his pillow. It was bent and water-stained. He turned to the last page and wrote with a borrowed pencil. Mama moi moi. I will never forget you. One day, I will find you. And when I do, I'll make you proud. He paused. Then, as if sealing a vow, he drew a small sketch of her, broad face, soft smile, and a steaming tray beside her. His tiny hands couldn't draw well, but the love in his heart filled every crooked line. He didn't know her real name. He didn't know where she lived. But he knew this much. She was the first person who ever made him feel seen. The price of generosity. Kemisola Adeyemi, known to the market as Mama Moi Moi, closed her stand late that evening. Her tray was lighter than usual, but not because business was good. The 5,000 naira she had given the boy earlier had meant giving up her profit, her transport fare, and the change she owed to customers. She tied her scarf tighter against the night wind and began the long walk home. Home was a single room tucked behind an abandoned printing shop. The walls leaked when it rained, the window had no glass, and the wooden door hung on one rusted hinge. But it was shelter, and she shared it with her only daughter, Kemi. 17 and strong-willed, Kemi had inherited her mother's stubborn dignity. She worked after school, helped with moi moi preparation at dawn, and cleaned homes on Saturdays. It was their rhythm. Their survival. When Mama Kemi arrived, her daughter looked up from the corner of the room where she was sorting palm oil bottles. Mama, you look tired. Mama Kemi smiled wearily. Today was long, my dear. Did you sell well? A pause. I helped someone. A boy. He lost his school fees. Kemi froze. You gave him money. 5,000. Kemi's eyes widened in disbelief. Mama. That's all we had for this week. For Gary, for kerosene, for... I know. Then why? Her mother sat slowly on a wooden stool and untied her headscarf. Her grey streaked hair fell like threads of cotton against her neck. Because when I was 16, a stranger gave me 600 naira, she said. I was hungry. Pregnant. Alone. That money bought me beans and soap. It saved me for one more week. I never saw the woman again, but I promised, if I could, one day, I would pass it on. Silence. Kemi dropped the bottle in her hand. She sat beside her mother and leaned into her side. I just don't want you to suffer again. I am used to suffering, my daughter. But I am not used to losing who I am. They sat like that for a long time. But fate does not reward kindness with ease. The next day, a city government task force rode through the market with sirens and bulldozers. Without warning, stalls were smashed. Vendors screamed. Food scattered into the gutters. The air was thick with dust and desperation. Mama Kemi's stand was one of the first to fall. By the time she arrived, only splinters remained. No one cared that her name wasn't on a list. No one cared that her food helped children eat. The law was the law, brutal and blind. She returned home late, broken. Her hands trembled as she opened the door. Kemi rushed to her. What happened? They destroyed everything. Her voice cracked. Everything. Corridors of survival. There were days when silence was heavier than hunger. This was one of them. The room felt smaller that evening, tight with grief and the sting of helplessness. Mama Kemi sat in the corner, her fingers tracing the hem of her wrapper over and over. Her face, once animated with pride even in struggle, was hollow. Kemi had never seen her like this. They had no store. No food to sell. No savings. No money for rent. The landlord came the following morning, his voice loud enough to stir shame from the walls. Madam Adeyemi, I no be charity. You dey owe me 2 months. If by weekend you no pay, abeg pack go. He didn't wait for a reply. The door slammed. A bowl trembled on the shelf. Kemi turned to her mother, her jaw clenched. That's it, she said. I'm not watching you break. She pulled a faded handbag from under the bed and removed her school ID card. It cracked slightly at the edge. I stopped school. Just for now. I get more shifts at Mama Remy's canteen. Her girl left last week. Mama Kemi looked up, alarmed. No. Kemi, don't do that. Education is the only thing I have left to give you. But what good is school if we're sleeping outside? Her voice cracked. I'd rather scrub pots than watch you shrink into sadness. Tears welled up in Mama Kemi's eyes. I wanted to protect you from this life. And you did, Kemi said softly. Every spoon of moi moi I wrapped. Every time you made people laugh even when we hadn't eaten. That was protection, Mama. Now let me do the same. That afternoon, Kemi walked straight to Mama Remy's booker and got the job. It was hard, greasy work, flames, hot oil, screaming customers, and bruised knuckles, but it paid 1,500 naira a day, and they began to eat again. Nights were spent on a borrowed mat in the corridor of an old friend's home, a one-room apartment already housing 5. Kemi and her mother claimed a patch of floor near the kitchen door. The space was tight, and privacy was a fantasy. But it was shelter. One night, as they lay side by side, staring at the cracked ceiling, Mama Kemi whispered. Do you think he remembers me? Kemi turned to her. Who? The boy. Kemi paused. Then said gently, the good ones always remember, Mama. When the wind changed. It started with a knock at the gate, a sound so rare in the Aneo household that Emeka paused mid-bite. His father opened the gate and stood frozen. On the other side stood a tall man in a navy blue kaftan, smiling, holding out a set of car keys. You're Mr. Aneo, the mechanic. Yes, Aneo said slowly. The man laughed. Oh, good. Remember that black Prado Jeep you fixed for me last month? You repaired it so well, my wife's been forcing me to give you something extra. He handed over a white envelope and the keys. What's this? Aneo asked. The man winked. It's not a gift. It's a test of luck. Inside the envelope was a lottery ticket. Nothing else. Emeka leaned over to read it, unimpressed. We don't play games like that, sir. Play it, the man said, grinning. And if you win, remember us. The man walked away before they could refuse. Aneo scoffed. What nonsense. Lottery. But 3 days later, Emeka returned from school to find neighbors crowding the compound. Shouting. Dancing. Laughing. His father was in the center, sweating, barefoot, holding a radio like a sacred object. 100 million naira, he kept saying. 100 million. The ticket had matched all the numbers. Perfectly. They were rich. Just like that. Wealth changes a household faster than time. They moved into a duplex in Ibadan within 2 months. Ifeoma quit her job, hired a cook, and started wearing makeup every morning. Aneo became a local celebrity, giving testimonies in church about God's sudden grace. But Emeka didn't change. He still made his bed. Still read late into the night. Still drew in his notebook, the same one where he had first sketched the face of Mama Moi Moi. One day, sitting in his new air-conditioned room, Emeka opened that notebook and found the vow he wrote years ago. One day, I will find you. And when I do, I'll make you proud. And suddenly, all the noise of the mansion faded. All he could hear was her voice on that rainy day. Help they move like breeze, you know fit see but he go reach somewhere. The search begins. Ogbomosho was not as Emeka remembered. The roads were wider, the market more chaotic. Kiki drivers yelled through cracked megaphones, and hawkers chased after buses with sachets of pure water and plantain chips. But beneath the noise and dust, the scent of old memories still clung to the air. He returned with a printed sketch, the same face from his notebook, and a folded page that read, "Looking for this woman. She sold moi moi here 7 years ago. Her name might be Kemi." He asked everyone. Market women squinted at the picture. Oh. He resembled one mama wey they sell by corner side that year. You mean the one way government pursue? She get one fine daughter. Them suffer well. Each clue led to another. He followed the trail through alleys, past broken stalls, to a fish vendor who remembered a girl named Kemi who once worked in a buka near Alefia Street. Go to Remy's kitchen, the woman said. If she's still there, she go sabi wetin happen. And Remy did remember. Oh, she exclaimed. You're that boy. Mama Kemi talk about you till the day she died. She called you her blessing. She say it pain am say she never see you again before she go. Emeka stood still. She died. Remy nodded slowly. 2 years ago. Malaria. No hospital money. Her daughter tried. Kemi did everything. But it was too late. The girl with her mother's eyes. Remy gave him an address. It led to a small but neat shop in a Bodon's Bodija area. The name above the wooden signboard was simple. Kemi's Bites. Inside, a young woman arranged trays of hot moi moi, jollof rice, and pepper chicken. Her scarf was tied just like her mother's. Her eyes, those were unmistakable. Emeka stepped inside. Kemi, he asked. She turned, guarded. Yes. He brought out the folded sketch. Handed it to her. My name is Emeka. Your mother once gave me 5,000 naira for my school fees. I've been looking for her for years. Her hands dropped the tray. The silence between them was heavy with memory. You're the boy, she whispered. You really came. I promised I would. Tears brimmed in her eyes. You're too late, she said, voice trembling. She always believed you'd come back. Even when we had nothing. She called you her seed. Her hope. I'm so sorry, Emeka said, his voice cracking. She changed everything. She saved my life. I wanted to thank her. Kemi reached out, took his hand, and placed it gently over her heart. She hears you. Giving back. Emeka did not stop at gratitude. He returned the next day with 2 lawyers, a business consultant, and a banker. Together, they transformed Kemi's Bites into a full-fledged eatery, air-conditioned, modern, with signage that read, Mama Kemi's Kitchen, where kindness is the first ingredient. The menu began with moi moi. Always. A framed drawing of Mama Kemi, the sketch from his notebook, hung on the wall behind the cashier's desk. Emeka also opened an education fund under her name, granting scholarships to children from disadvantaged families. At the press launch, he stood beside Kemi and spoke through tears. She gave me 5,000. That was all. But it gave me everything. Full circle. One afternoon, a small boy ran into Mama Kemi's kitchen, crying. He had lost something. Kemi knelt beside him. What happened? My school fees, he sobbed. My mama go beat me. Kemi reached into the drawer. She handed him an envelope. Take. Go pay. Come back tomorrow. I'll give you a plate of food. The boy blinked. Why? She smiled. Because someone helped my mother. And she helped someone else. And now, it's my turn. The boy ran off, still sniffling but smiling. Kemi stood at the doorway and looked up. The sun spilled over the rooftops like grace. Legacy. Years later, when Mama Kemi's kitchen had expanded to 3 cities, Emeka stood once more at the graveside of Kemisola Adeyemi. The stone read, "She gave even when she had nothing. And what she gave still grows." He placed a single moi moi leaf by her name and whispered, "You did it, Mama. You reached me. And I keep passing it on." The wind answered with silence. But in that silence, there was peace. And the ripple went. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe and share please.